Good afternoon. May I now call to order the meeting of the Bills Committee on the private Columbaria bill. We will be meeting deputations at this meeting, and so may I now invite the administration and the deputations in. I want to remind members that this meeting will be divided into two sessions. 36 deputations or individuals will attend the first session. Or altogether, will attend the two sessions. And we've got a list of submissions from deputations and individuals not attending the meeting. So after the first session, we'll give the administration 10 minutes to respond to the deputation's comments. And I don't think there will be time for members to ask questions before session 1 ends. This is because we're going to have another 19 deputations in the second session. And so I think members can have an exchange with the administration on the comments heard before the end of the second session. So after our officials and deputations or individuals have been seated, we will start this first session. I think we can start. And I would like to welcome the deputations and individuals present today. I want to remind the deputations and individuals present that you will be invited to address the Bills Committee, and you can choose the channel you prefer, Cantonese, English, or Putonghua. Channel 1 Cantonese, Channel 2 English, Channel 3 Putonghua, and then Channel 0 floor channel. If you may want to wear the earpiece for amplification effects. I would also like to remind you that each of you will have 3 minutes to give your comments to the Bills Committee. And then I'll invite the administration to give some replies. And if there is sufficient time, I may invite members to have an exchange with you, to ask you questions, and to listen to your replies. And I would also like to remind you that what you say at this meeting will not be covered by the Electoral Powers and Privileges Ordinance. In other words, you have to bear full responsibility for what you say at this meeting. And for those in the public gallery, let me remind you that you should note the content of the points to note for members of the public observing electoral meetings in the public gallery. Now, in fact, a copy of the document can be found on your seat. Or if you can't find a copy, you can approach our security staff for a copy. So those in the public gallery must not speak or shout or give comments. And from the administration today, we have Mr. Christopher Wong, Deputy Secretary for Food and Health, Ms. Diane Wong, Principal Assistant Secretary for Food and Health, Assistant Director, FEHD, Ms. Shulan Ying, Ms. Phyllis Ko, Senior Assistant Law Draftsman, Ms. Cindy Churk, Government Counsel, Mr. Thomas Leung, Assistant Director, Buildings Department, Ms. Olga Lam, Assistant Director, Lands Department, and finally Ms. Christine Chair, Assistant Director of Planning. And now I would like to invite the deputations to speak. First, Miss Che Sinha. It's Chu Sinha. Oh, sorry, Miss Chu. Yes. Good afternoon. I am Sunshine Chu Sinha from the Civic Party. Now, a number of Columbaria were discovered to be operating in an unauthorized manner. Nuisance was caused to the residents. And at the time, the Civic Party proposed that there should be clear policies and legislation to regulate the operation of private Columbaria. And now we have this bill before us. The Civic Party has already given a detailed written submission to the Bills Committee on its comments. I would now like to say something about the principles enshrined in the bill. First of all, the Civic Party hopes that the Bills Committee can complete the scrutiny of the bill as soon as possible. There are private Columbaria waiting to be licensed. And in the interim, these Columbaria can still sell the niches, and they can also apply for the temporary suspension of liability. And so we do not want the a private Columbaria, especially unauthorized ones, to in the interim sell large numbers of niches to the public. And then second, some Columbaria have been constructing many or niche blocks in recently and in recent years. And also, we do not think private Columbarians will have to go through an application period of 6 to 7 years. And then there should be different stakeholders involved. And I think those living near private Columbaria should be informed of the licensing criteria. And it would be helpful if these residents know how far these proposed Columbaria are from their homes. And if necessary, these residents can also lodge appeals. Finally, the Civic Party hopes that departments concerned will continue to take rigorous enforcement action against unlawfully operating Columbaria. Yes, but of course, we also need to make sure that there will be an adequate supply of niches. Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Mr. Tang, rather. Yes, I speak for the NPP and Civic Power. I am a Sha Tin District Councillor, and my name is Tang Wing-cheong. I support a licensing system for private Columbaria. At the moment, there is a lack of regulation. In the past decade, a lot of unauthorized unlawful private Columbaria were set up. Consumers' rights have been jeopardized. And many consumers are unable to, through legal means, get back the money they have paid. and they do not know when they can really get back their money.
So for the given the proliferation of these illegal columbaria, they do affect the residents nearby in their daily lives. We think the licensing system should involve the stakeholders concerned, that is the consumers, the operators, and the neighboring residents. We think that one should focus on the consumers and the neighboring residents. Now, the bill proposes that the infringing columbaria can have 6 years of TSOL, temporary suspension of liability. Now, this will allow them to continue to break the law in this period and make money in a through this loophole. So I think we should speed up prosecuting these illegal infringing columbaria. Now, as for permanent exemptions from licensing, we have reservations right now. The infringing persons are not allowed to operate permanently. They infringe the leases, the land leases, and town planning regulations. We should eliminate them and prosecute them. A few more suggestions. Therefore, the New People's Party and I'm sorry, you have to stick to the 3-minute time limit. If there is an opportunity, I will let you speak again. Mr. KWOK Chung-man. Now, I have long been against the private columbaria policy, and those who benefit are not here today. Now, the bill is made for you, so you benefit. So other people suffer. Now, will Buddha please help you? Now, the planning department and the lands department have been lax in your law enforcement. The Development Bureau isn't in support. The bill should have been perfect after several years of drafting, but it's very disappointing. Now, ashes, if they are turned into something like this, who can tell whether they are ashes? They may contain other elements. You think the appearance is too traditional? We have another piece that is more artistic, with the word good, the word with the character good. Now, it's similar to the approach regarding universal suffrage. The Hong Kong residents are not here, but I will address you people. Now, the word residence is in the bill. Now, subdivided units, that has to be explained. Now, regarding Tung Chung, the indigenous residents have removed most of the ashes to other locations. Now, to remove the rest of the ashes requires a lot of work. Now, the MTR is less than 1,000 meters away from it. We have an original proposal to build various facilities there. Next, Mr. Yue-hon, member of Sha Tin District Council. I represent MPP, and now in Lake Yuen, my constituency, there are over 10 of these Columbaria. It's quite unique. Now, Mr. Lam Wing-cheong already said that we should not have exemptions, but the fact is there are many long-standing and yet non-complying Columbaria already existing. Now, the bill has to provide the neighboring residents as well as consumers. If we abolish all these Columbaria, then the problem is how do you handle the large quantity of ashes. So we have to address this issue. I support temporary venues for these ashes to be stored, but not for worship purpose. Now, we have to be fair to people who are queuing for public niches. Now, the 6 years grace period seems to be long, but we know that processes like these are very lengthy. 6 years should be acceptable. When one applies to the Town Planning Board for change in land use, there are usually various new developments, and people submit various objections. So there should be a licensing system for the Columbaria who want to be regularized to apply accordingly. Now, and right now, the application process is lengthy and subject to many reversals and changes. So it's a nuisance to the local residents and the bodies concerned. So in the licensing criteria, the government should be very clear. Thank you, Mr. Wong. Next, Mr. Ao Him. I represent the Democratic Party. Our party supports the licensing system for private Columbaria. The reason is very simple. Now, the illicit Columbaria issue has been troubling for a long time. They disturb the environment, they cause transport problems, and there was illegal sale of niches. Now, we have 2 points. Firstly, now, on 18th of June, the bill was announced. The operators have 2 choices. First, to apply for exemption. Second, apply for temporary suspension of liability, or TSOL. That is, they cannot add new shares. However, in the latter case, after the bill is passed, they can be purchased and sold. Now, a reasonable operator will try to expand its capacity right now as much as possible. By the time license is issued, he would have a lot in his pocket already, and you wouldn't dare touch his interest. Now, the government does not have the courage to cancel the application for license. The party feels that they shouldn't. In many cases, they shouldn't be exempted. If it's a green belt under the town planning regulations, they shouldn't be able to put a columbarium there. And secondly, there shouldn't be exemptions for Columbaria very close to where people live. Now, people don't want to open their windows and look onto a lot of burial facilities. And also, concerning the compensation fund, the Food and Health Bureau did suggest that there should be a operation or maintenance fund, but this proposal was not included in the bill. So there should be a maintenance fund or compensation fund in the bill. Next, Mr. Koo Chang-man. I represent the Polam Monastery, Mr. Ernest Ko. Now, Polam used to be the it was established by a revered elderly monk, and many Buddhist monks became monks there. Now we have this Potong pagoda built in 1968. Half of the niches are already filled. The other half are for the ashes of monks who die in the future. Now, and sometimes discretionary cases where the parents of monks are also interred there, and charges are levied for the parents of the monks up to several $1,000s. Now, the exemption clauses under the bill only exempt those niches already filled. So in the future, the parents of monks will not be able to have their ashes interred there, and the niches cannot be sold. And the definition of sale refers to the fact that payment is not allowed in any form. Now, Clause 27 of exemptions makes it appear that vacated niches in the future will not be exempted, or currently vacant niches will not be exempted in the future. On the levying of charges, now if token fees are charged, would that be exempted? Like in the Polam Monastery, actually it's a charitable organization. It's unlike a for-profit columbarium. Now, Polam is on a mountain. If one walks uphill, it will take 1 hour. Usually, when the monks' corpses have been created, the ashes are interred in the monastery. As I said at the outset, there are supposed to be 19 speakers in this session, but however, some of them have not arrived yet, so we have ample time. And just now, Mr. Tang was unable to finish his speech. Maybe we can let him speak a little longer. Can that be accepted, Mr. Tang? No.
Yes, Chairman. Now we hope that Columbaria can be regulated. We also want to help consumers and the nearby residents. And so the NPP and Civic Power are of the view that there can be more transparency so that consumers know what to pay attention to and also the potential risks. And secondly, concerning those consumers who have bought niches in unlawful Columbaria, assistance should be given to them. For example, concerning temporary storage of the ashes. At the moment, there is insufficient supply, and that is why we've seen a proliferation of illegal Columbaria. I think the administration should step up with the provision of public Columbaria. We understand that there will be a shortage of 300,000 niches, and so there must be more public Columbaria. And an increase in supply will help deal a blow to the operation of unlawful or illegal private Columbaria. All right, members, any questions? Ms. Chen Yun-han, and also Mr. Tony Chair, and Mr. Wu Chi-wai as well, and Mr. Chen Kai-lok. 5 minutes for each member. Ms. Chen Yun-han, thank you. I want to ask the administration a question. Concerning the columbarium in Polin Monastery, the niches house the ashes of the monks and also their family members. And the deputation said that there should be relaxation of the bill. How? Mr. Koo. It is said that there can be exemption for niches being occupied. And I think for Polin Monastery, exemption can be obtained. But then there are some niches which are not occupied at the moment. And so can there be some exemptions? For example, a condition can be set to the effect that such niches can only be used to house the remains of monks and their family members. Yes, the administration, please. Yes, thank you. In fact, we've heard similar views from other stakeholders. We'll consider the suggestion, but then we have to be very careful in drawing the line. Some stakeholders are of the view that we should err on the stringent side. But I want to say that we will be considering this suggestion. Thank you. Now, if the monastery can prove that the niches will only be will be reserved for monks and their family members, then I think exemption should be granted. You know, there are lots of monks in Pauline Monastery and also in Polam Monastery. I think in some respects, the administration should be able to be more relaxed. Thank you. Mr. Tony Chair. Yes, I've got questions for the administration as well as for the deputations. The Civic Party suggests that there should be statutory public consultation procedures. I understand that there is consultation under the town planning ordinance. So, what do you mean by statutory public consultation exercises? Are you referring to the consultation under the town planning ordinance, or are you suggesting other forms of consultation? So this is my first question. Yes, Chairman. The answer is yes. You mean new legislation, other forms of consultation? You mean apart from the town planning ordinance consultation, correct? But then, as you've proposed statutory public consultation exercises, does it mean that the consultation exercise has to be provided for in the legislation? Do you have any detailed ideas? We will, but you don't have such ideas today yet, no. And then my question for the administration is this: that exemptions can be granted under certain conditions, and also if a private columbarium wants to apply for a license, then in the interim, an exemption or temporary exemption may be granted. But what if there is a breach of the town planning ordinance or the land-related ordinances, because it's an exemption? In other words, the columbarium has breached existing laws and regulations. So do you have to amend the other pieces of relevant legislation as well, so that the departments concerned will not take enforcement action during the exemption period? So can I have a reply from the administration, please? And then with regard to Polam Chan Monastery, as Ms. Chen has rightly pointed out, a reply should be given by the administration to the Bills Committee when we start the scrutiny of the bill. Yes, Ms. Wong. Yes, I'll give a reply, and I think my colleagues can supplement if they want to. Concerning the Civic Party's suggestion that there should be statutory consultation processes, I think there are 2 points. If an operator wants to apply for a license, he has to satisfy requirements under the town planning ordinance. And so when the applicant wants to apply for a change in zoning, he has to convince the town planning board that there will not be unacceptable traffic or environmental impact. So this is one of the procedures. And then in the bill, we do state that the licensing authority in deciding whether to issue a license can take into account public comments, newspapers, on the internet, and also notices can be put up at prominent locations near the proposed Columbarium site, inviting public comments. So the licensing authority will take into account public views in deciding whether a license will be granted. And if members read the bill, they will know that the operator has to satisfy many conditions. For example, the Columbarium has been in operation before the 1st of January 1990, and that there was a freezing exercise, and then lands and buildings, regulations and requirements have to be met. And even if exemption is granted, the licensing authority will impose conditions in the license. For example, making sure that nuisance costs to nearby residents will be minimized. Mr. Wu Chi-wai, I've got two questions. First of all, on the 18th of June at 8 a.m., there was a freeze on the number of Columbaria in Hong Kong, and there were two categories: applications for exemptions and applications for TSOL, temporary suspension of liability. So I would like to know how many operators we're talking about, how many Columbaria or niches are covered by the freezing survey. And in Columbaria, there are niches which have been sold, but then those concerned have not passed away, and so the niches are not occupied yet. So do you have the number of these? And I understand that exemptions can be granted only for sold and occupied niches. So if an operator applies for exemption, can he still in the interim increase the number of niches and continue to sell unoccupied niches or new niches? Because some are worried that in the interim, illegal Columbaria operators may drastically increase the number of niches. And then my third question is for the representatives from Sha Tin. I understand that in Sha Tin there are quite a large number of illegal Columbaria. In one constituency in Sha Tin, there are over 10. But then I understand that when there was a proposal to build a public columbarium in Shek Mun, there was a lot of objection from the district council. So I would like to know how we can make sure that private columbaria can be built. All right, so let's have the deputations answering the questions first. Mr. Wong.
Let me respond briefly about the supply in Shek Mun. Now, MPP and Civic Power did not object in the case of Sha Tin. We are more concerned about the design. Now, if the design is acceptable, we will not object. We are mainly concerned about transportation capacity, especially during the worship seasons because there is new public housing being erected there. Now, if too many people go there for ancestral worship, it may cause difficulties. So we are not against the public niches at Shek-mun. So is Shatin District Council agreeable to the Shek-mun niches? We can only speak for our parties. Now, concerning Mr. Wu's question, let me supply some information. Now, FEHD in a while can supply more data. Now, up to 24th of October 2014, now we have received 130 odd notices. Now, that includes 7.6% of the list with the Development Bureau, and the remainder are outside the Development Bureau list. Now, the FEHD is collating the information now. Now, your question about exemptions. Now, as of 8 a.m. on 16th June 2014, the cutoff time. Now, after that time, if someone applies for exemptions, he cannot sell or lease any more niches. Otherwise, when the bill is passed, he will lose the ability to apply for exemption. Now, for the niches not yet occupied, but for which contracts are signed, now we are aware of this problem. As of 30th of June already, in our press release, we already gave an account. We want to be strict in the drafting. We are afraid that people might try to profiteer. They claim to have sold the niches and then do the actual sale in a fly-by-night manner afterwards. Now, there are some cases that we must deal with pragmatically. Say, one spouse died, and then the other cannot have her ashes or his ashes interred at the same location. So we do have to be pragmatic and try to help the people. Dr. Chen Kao-lok. No, I think basically people welcome the legislation to regulate private columbaria. And the malpractices over the years to protect the consumers against these many ways of profiteering, many of them dishonest. So we have to educate people and raise the threshold for the operators. So we want to listen to the public's views. Perhaps I can ask the speaker. Now, he was rather negative, but do you feel that in your experience, all regulations by the administration so far and being planned are too lax? There shouldn't be any private columbaria. Is that what you mean, Mr. Kwok? Now, that is already in my written submission. The bill has many deficiencies, and the policy is self-contradictory in many areas. For instance, you want green burial, and yet you want to increase the supply of niches. You want public supply and you want private supply. Now, if there's adequate public supply, you don't need private supply. Now, this is a problem over the past 2 decades and more. Now, you need better ways. Now, not by exemptions. For instance, there's a three-pronged approach. You can use one of those approaches. Now, right now, it's self-contradictory. Now, you don't want them to exist, and yet you let them continue to develop. So I think the three-pronged approach is self-contradictory. Now, I understand that at times we cannot stop certain things, but the policies should not try to be biased towards a certain group of people, because ultimately it's the public who lose out. So you favor public niches, right? Because there was insufficient supply of public niches, unregulated private Columbaria proliferate, but you prefer public niches. Now, if we want to abolish private niches in Columbaria, there must be enough public supply. I understand what you mean. Now, on whether the regulatory threshold should be increased, now in Schedule 2, these are already infringing. So I think this will help our Bills Committee. Now, do you want the committee to be more stringent to reduce the number of infringing Columbaria? I think the bill should not be passed. That way, the government would be forced to take a realistic approach. Now, if there are no ashes, we can merely have a memorial name plaques. Now, that is a better way. Now, we simply don't have enough land for all these niches. I am in favor of memorial structures for these that are without niches for ashes. Miss Helena Wong. Wong pick one. Now the Democratic Party is supportive of the legislation of this bill. We hope that it can be passed quickly, but we receive many complaints. In the absence of regulation, there are already many infringing private Columbaria, which we cannot deal with. Now, after the bill is passed, for those who are already infringing, will there be any impact? Or is it that after the bill is passed, these illicit Columbaria will disappear, or will they become legal and exist permanently? Also, Mr. Ao Lok Him of Democratic Party talked about the exemption issue, and his question was, should there be certain terms for exemption or no exemption? For instance, if it's breached the town planning regulations or it's too close to people's residences, then they cannot be exempted. Now, I'd like the officials to respond. Now, on the first point, on application of exemptions, we explain that there are requirements about land, etc. So, because terms can be applied to reduce the impact of neighboring residents. Now, on consumers' interest, now in the past few years, we issued notices to the consumers, and we did a lot of publicity on the new bill. And I don't want to dwell too long on that, but the work is ongoing. On Ms. Wong's third question, now the illicit or infringing Columbaria on law enforcement, what will happen? Now, before the departments will continue to enforce the law, and that has been ongoing. And recently, now on the requirement that there can be no human remains, the court has made a ruling, and we propose, and we look at the cases concerned to see what can be done. Now on the licensing system, once it's become effective, well, of course, the system is now in discussion at the committee. Now we don't know what its final shape will be. But once it's passed, the Columbaria will have to apply. If they cannot get a license or exemption, and if they are not given the TSOL or temporary suspension of liability, then the FEHD is entitled to enforce the law. So there are ways that we can deal with them. I'd like to supplement, after the bill is passed, if the Columbaria doesn't have a license, it can not continue to operate illicitly. It cannot sell any new niches. Now, let's give a concrete example. Well, one of the deputations has not arrived. Now, just now, an official said that the administration has the power to enforce the law. Now, in the case of the KWOK monastery, they said that, well, of course, there are town planning regulations. Now, the monastery kept applying for extension of time. So, and it seems that there is a loophole at town planning board or within the town planning regulations, so that they cannot be dealt with. Now, Lands Department also exacts very low fines, so it's not effective. Please be very succinct. A brief reply, please. Now, after, as I said, after the new law is passed, if applicants cannot get the license, they cannot sell niches, they can't say we are still applying under the town planning arrangements and so on, and therefore keep on selling. The speaker is not speaking through the mic. Now, we've levied penalties. We inspected the locations. The number of niches has decreased a lot there. So we come to the end of this session. We thank the deputations for offering their valuable views for members and officials. Thank you. We will begin the second session after a 5-minute break.